On the topic of agentic AI, though, I think that there was in my opinion, what may be a very huge announcement. Um, Again, sort of in the vein of DeepSeek, too early to tell, but another Chinese company, this one called Manus, has come to market and released what they're calling, I think it's just called Manus AI, or just Manus maybe, and it is a fully autonomous agentic generic agentic AI platform. And what I mean by that is, unlike, certainly what we're developing, or unlike other companies where they tend to be focused on specific things, and unlike a builder platform like a Salesforce or what ServiceNow is doing, this is effectively, think about the same way you would use GPT or Claude, and where you just have this thing, except that now this thing can literally go and on its own do just a huge rush. So in the demo that they're showing, and so far, as far as I know, it's still just a demo. Like, nobody's actually been able to get their hands on it really. Um, but in the demo, it says, I'm interested in renting an apartment or buying a place in San Francisco or something like that, with a little bit of parameters, the same kind of prompt that you might give into a ChatGPT. And instead of giving the sort of normal, pretty short, concise little response that you would get and say, here's some considerations, or here's a look at, or whatever, this thing went out and on its own, without it being prompted, looked at crime rates, looked at resale values, looked at all this sort of stuff, and did this really deep dive and prepared this really deep report. And I think what was really interesting about it was that it was the lack of prompting, or the the way I would think of it is that, like, in a manager, like, oh, this agent really showed initiative, right? They went out
Hmm.
there and thought, what was the subtext behind this request, and sort of dug into it on its own. It was very impressive. Again, on the demo, it seemed very fast. If I compare it to some of the other like uh, chain of thought reasoning models.
Hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see if when this really gets out into the wild, if it is as impressive as it looks. But on the demo, it looks like this is a significant breakthrough.
Yeah, and I find it fascinating from kind of a philosophical perspective in that I feel like American AI has been very focused on scale out, just create as much big of an AI as you possibly can, throw as much data as possible, and see what comes out of it. And the Chinese AI innovations that we've seen are about creating guardrails to some extent. So with DeepSeek, we saw restricted processing used to create the same level of AI because they were just smarter about how they went into kind of that assembly level and figured out how to make the model more efficient. And now with Manus, it seems like when you give it an instruction, it quickly figures out what are the rules that we need to figure out and then starts optimizing those rules. Kind of reminds me of some of these old school AIs that learned how to optimize how to play Pac-Man or optimized how to play chess. You gave them some rules and then it figured out how to absolutely optimize to those rules. And this is a little more complicated than that. That Manus first has to figure out what the rules are, but it quickly figures out what is the task. And then it figures out how to optimize based for that task, but at a pretty general level. I'm sure that there are things that break down at the ends, at the extremes, but this seems like a really interesting way to create an agent that is productive. And it wasn't done by thinking bigger, but probably by thinking about how to restrict the AI's focus. That's my guess here.
Well, and what I thought was interesting in the demo, the co-founder and chief scientist, I'm not going to try to say his name, Peak, I guess he goes by. Um, he came across as very articulate, and what I mean by that is, like, this wasn't just geek speak. This wasn't just how can we create some cool technology. It was very much focused on how do we solve problems, and actually create something that delivers a result, a solution. And I was very impressed by it. I mean, I think,
Mhm.
like I said, we will see what this thing looks like in the wild when people can start putting it through the paces. But on first blush, it was quite impressive.